Hi everybody, this is Ian Coyote from Shiva's Magic Alcove. And thank you for deciding to take a look at my video. So, I have this friend, um, and since in the old Coyote stories, Coyote and Fox were always friends, let's call him Fox. So, I have this friend Fox who went through this really awesome little experience, a little mystical experience type of thing, and I was really happy for him when I heard it. He experienced this moment of bliss and harmony, and it happened when he was not prepared for it, so it just kind of happened as if by accident, though one could say it wouldn't have happened if he hadn't been prepared for it on some level. But he wants to get this experience back. And I've been wanting to make a video on some of these yogic processes and things for some time. So I thought I would combine the two things. Now, there's this book that's called the Vinjanabhairava. Let me grab it here. Okay, this is the copy I have. The Vinjanabhairava, or Divine Consciousness. I guess I can't see that very well. J. Deva Singh is the author of this translation. But this basically consists of 112 what are called dharanas, or methods of meditation that relate to yoga. And I thought he might want to look at a couple of these as potential methods to bring back his state, because the Indian yogis and mystics and things have been working with mystical states and creating them and creating divine consciousness and things like that for thousands of years. And all this information is written down and available nowadays. In the past, this was all kept very much a secret and transmitted, most of it through oral tradition from guru to disciple and not otherwise. Nowadays, there's been a lot of focus on conserving and translating some of these old texts, and some translations are better than others, but the Vinjanabhairava I'm going to go through and explain a little bit. This is also going to be just a tiny bit of a yoga primer, because there are certain concepts that need to be understood a little bit before attempting these meditations if you're familiar with all these content. Well, anyway, but I'm going to try to get to some of these things. But for my friend Fox, I'm going to start with one right off the bat, and then we'll go into more explanations. And I want to deal with probably, among others, the SoHam mantra and how to do the SoHam practice properly, because it's not just reciting a mantra. SoHam is known as the mantra that repeats itself ceaselessly. So that'll take some explanation in a second. First, I'm going to recommend, and for anybody who wants to bring in anything, now this, for my friend Fox, is a method he can try, not out of the book, but it's based on my own experience with some of the Eucharistic methods of Franz Barden, the Hermetic magician. And the first practices in his book are the same as yogic practices. Many of them are. You can find basically the same developmental practices in yogic stuff. It's usually put behind a lot more symbolism in the yogic material. But anyway, one of the first practices I would recommend for trying to or I would recommend trying, for trying to reawaken this state is based on having the memory of it in the first place. So the idea would be, and my friend Fox says he has a very difficult time with his mind running a lot and going. And I try to keep that in mind also. There are basic processes for quieting the mind and such. But to try to go directly at this, so there is a method relating to the Eucharist, and a short description of the Eucharist outside of the church's description is the fact that you are incorporating a divine virtue or something, usually incorporating it into something and then taking that into yourself. So, the idea of consecrating a wafer, this is the the blood and body of Christ type of thing. But the idea is to, based on two things, this idea that you can incorporate a virtue into something, and with Barden's practices, you incorporate these virtues into your food and drink, and then you eat that and drink that, and it's basically the same type of practice as the communion, but you're putting divine virtues and things in, again, taking those in and absorbing them. This is based on that, and also based on a technique of the ancient mystics and gurus used to do to try to make a contact with a god or goddess, or a particular god or goddess. This is type of meditation has been used for like contact with like Para-Brahman and so the way to start this is be in a place where you can be undisturbed. If you have an asana, get in your asana, and asana is a body position designed to quiet and comfort the body and allow it to not interfere with your meditation whatsoever, and also enough tension and stuff in your body that you're not going to fall asleep. If you don't have one, it's okay. That's a whole nother subject to try and deal with. Okay, so in this case, for my friend, he's going to imagine, or I say God or the deity or whatever, that state that he wants to recover. And the idea is that you start by imagining, you close your eyes, be in as much silence as you can, get your thoughts, your body, your emotions as silent as you can and as still as you can. You want a comfortable stillness, not a strained stillness, or you want to also not have a set time limit as such, in that you have to be somewhere in like 15 minutes or something. No, nothing that's going to provide any anxiety while you're doing meditation. But the idea is to imagine that in his case, that state, in my case and other stuff, divine virtues, okay, you are in the center of an infinite space. Infinite space is all around you, and that infinite space is filled with that divine virtue or that state. In his case, that state that he wants to bring back, surrounding everywhere. And by that, I mean everywhere. You're infinitely small, infinitely large. All around you is that state. It could be, if you can picture it, that you're infinitely small in the center of your body, your being, your existence, and throughout you is that state of bliss and happiness that he experienced, or the divine virtue that you want to bring in. Now, it's all around you, meaning that it's throughout and surrounding everything. So if you are sitting in a chair, it is throughout the chair and touching you that way. It is throughout your clothes. and touching that way, so you get very intimate with that divine virtue or God, or in that case, that state, okay? And then you let it start seeping into you. You can breathe it in, breathe that state of harmony and peacefulness and everything it was, or the divine virtue you want. If somebody wants to focus on divine virtues, it's very interesting to see what you can get out of focusing on the 4 elemental divine virtues of God. So, omnipotence, omniscience, which is all-knowing, all-seeing, immortality, infinite life, infinite wisdom. These are all things that you can breathe in, breathe them into you. And these things won't harm you at all to breathe them in. You'll get a feeling for them and a closest to them, and if you can do it right, you get an understanding for them, and they will ennoble your character and your soul. And when you're done, you will go back to being yourself. These states of consciousness and mystical states are not a bad thing, and they're not a thing to be feared, although they can generate lots of fear. And there are many reasons for that. One of the reasons is that a lot of times when minds and things become quiet, there is a lot of, pardon me, my nose is itching right there. There is a lot of old stuff from the past that comes up. And it comes up because it needs to be cleared out and gone through. So the best way to deal with that stuff is to let it come up and hopefully ignore it and get rid of it. But that can be one of the scary things. So practices like this can also lead to needing to clear out your past traumas and things. And all in all, it's good to clear those out. But it's also okay to just let them go and drop it and not focus on them at all, especially if you're trying to do this particular practice. But you can breathe it in and imagine that this virtue surrounds you. You start with your nose and mouth. Breathe it in as if you're breathing it in, as if the air is impregnated with it. And it's so strongly impregnated as you breathe it in that it becomes true. At the moment you breathe it in, you become in harmony with this bliss, this happiness, this peace. Let it fill you. Imagine it going into you, into your lungs, into your bloodstream, through your lungs, circulating out through your bloodstream, out through your capillaries, throughout your whole self. It goes into your body. It's incorporated. It goes up into your emotions, into your feelings, up into your mind. Makes you perceive this harmony, this peacefulness, the bliss, or this divine virtue. If you're working on one of those, let it permeate you. And if you focus on the proper things, good things, by doing this, you'll be ennobling yourself. These things will hang with you for a while, and the more you do them, the more they will stay. It's a very useful practice to help with ennobling yourself, and is a type of yoga. Yoga, one of the definitions that's been given for it is union, meaning union with God. And there's 2 aspects. Well, before we get into that, the divine bliss, if you're focusing on using this method, you can also, if you're good at it, and if you have the focus, you can breathe it in through your pores, through pore breathing, as Barton describes, wherein you feel as if the energy, that the essence of that is actually, as you breathe in, is actually coming in not only through your lungs and your mouth, but through the pores, through your whole body, getting into you that way. And you can also manage, if you can imagine it, if you want to imagine these virtues pressing themselves into you, entering through the orifices of your body in various ways and filling you with this. And I don't need to say do this with virtues and things only, obviously, but it is a way of transforming yourself and making yourself into a better person using meditational and magical practices, and these things can go really deep. So that would be the first one I would recommend for my friend Fox, but I would also recommend that he follow through with learning some more about these practices and things. It looks like I've been maybe talking too loud. I'm going to turn the mic down a little bit. Sorry. Hopefully I won't overload anything. Okay, it looks like it was kind of hot. All right, so that should be better if I was too loud. If not, I'm going to be, if you had the volume set just right, now I'm going to be too low. Sorry. Okay, better that than having distortion now from it. So, to get further into what this yoga is and what that means, first, for the people who, there's a lot of people out there who have probably only been introduced to the Hatha yoga movement. And that is only one of many, many, many forms of yoga. There's Laya yoga, Krama yoga, Karma yoga, Kundalini yoga, many, many forms. And Hatha yoga is the only one that deals with body positions and movements, though, but there are mudras and things. So, big subject. Speaking of yoga itself, it has been translated as union with the divine. Okay, but there have even been some criticism of that term because there are kind of two schools in general. I mean, actually, there's many more, but two general approaches. And one is of union with deity. You're separate, deity separate, and you're trying to join you two together. Kashmir Shaivism, and the method that I follow, and the method that Swami Chaitanananda, his lineage, teaches, is that, which is the one I more or less follow, that God and humanity, people, beings, are not really separate to start with, that we are already it's hard to say this in a manner that's going to make sense and not give the wrong impression to some people. In some sense, this union is already there. Okay. In some sense, enlightenment is already there. But this is not perceived by people in their everyday life because they have too many barriers preventing it from coming through. So the big problem with stating it that way is that many people, and I've known some, believe that all they need to do is say, oh, okay, so I'm enlightened. I didn't understand it before, now I'm enlightened, so I'm enlightened. Well, just hearing that and thinking that now you're enlightened doesn't do it. It's not the enlightenment, because many things are in the way, including your mind. So I wanted to make that distinction so that people know there's that twofold approach. Some approach deity or the universe as entirely separate, and some approach it all as one. This also leads to dangers in the field of people taking it too far another direction and going, well, if that's true and this is all true, then everything is within me. And then if everything is within me, then all the demons out there are also within me. And magical evocations can conjure them up and use them, and since they're just a part of me, there's no hindrance to using them as such, and it gets used to, again, make a number of really poor choices, and people destroy their karma with bad karma, with things like that. So, but we're not after any of that. We're after divine enlightenment. So I'm going to read a few passages from the book on yoga in general, on these type of yogic processes, and then I will go into the Soham mantra. And I hope I haven't. I hope this isn't all taking too long. This is going to be a long video also, so apologies there. But I think these things kind of need to be mentioned at least once in this video, considering the subject. Okay, I'll try to be quick with some of the stuff because I want to get on to some of the other dharanas in here, which is our meditations basically. And please forgive any mispronunciation, or please forgive all mispronunciation of the words. I was not taught the words by somebody, but from reading, so I should be close enough that if somebody says it properly, you'll be able to understand what's so. Vinjanabhairava consists of two words, Vinjana and Bhairava. We first of all have to understand the esoteric significance of Bhairava. Basically, Ba indicates Bharana, or maintenance of the universe. Ra indicates Ravana, or withdrawal of the universe. Va indicates Vama, or projection, the manifestation of the universe. Thus, Bhairava indicates all three aspects of the divine. So, one of the pillars of Hindu, or I don't know if calling it Hindu philosophy is the right word, but I'll use that for lack of a better. But anyway, in this, the idea is creation, maintenance, and destruction of the world, and that is what the word Aum, A-U-M, relates to. The A is the beginning, the creation. The U is the maintenance and endurance of the universe, and the M is the contraction, bringing it all back in. So they consider that the aspects of the universe. Thus, Bhairava indicates all three aspects of the divine. And I'm just, without going into an explanation of Vijnana, I'm going to just call it knowledge. So I'm going to say that the word means knowledge of the divine, though it's more than that. So, while Bhairava has three aspects, he, from the point of view of the mystic, is that ultimate reality in which the light of consciousness and eternal awareness of that light are indistinguishably fused. So, the nature of this is absolute freedom revealing itself. It is to this Vinjanabhairava that the seeker of spiritual life has to be integrated. Okay. That state of Bhairava, which is full of the bliss of non-difference from the entire world, is alone Bhairavi, or Shakti of Bhairavi. And I'm not going to go into explain those. But Shakti, briefly, Shakti is the movement, power, manifested potentiality, as it were. So, and then in this text, the Devi now inquires, by what means can this highest state be realized? In reply to this, Bhairava, and the book is stated as a conversation between Bhairava, or God, and his Shakti, or the one who, the female aspect that institutes the action. So in Vinjanabhairava, the word dharana, which means these meditations, is used in a wide sense of fixation or concentration of mind or yoga. The word yoga is used both for in the sense of communication with the divine and the means for that communication. So 112 types of yoga or means of communication with the divine have been described in this text. And the author says, fire walking, acid swallowing, stopping the heartbeat, etc. pass for yoga, when really speaking they have nothing to do with yoga as such. Even psychic powers are not yoga. Yoga is awareness, transformation of the human consciousness into divine consciousness. This is a book on yoga, not on philosophy, but its system of yoga can be better understood if one is acquainted with its metaphysical background. And we'll leave that statement at that and not go further into that. The Vinjanabhairava, this text, has utilized all the traditional techniques of yoga postures, mudras or gestures, development of prana shakti, awakening of kundalini, mantra japa, a recital of words or power or sacred formula, bhakti, devotion, jnana, which is realization through understanding, meditation, creative contemplation. It even uses certain techniques of a very non-formal nature, e.g. looking vacantly at the dark night, high mountains, watching the condition of consciousness in a seesaw movement, the condition of consciousness before falling asleep, intently looking at a vase without partition, etc. It has recommended 112 dharanas according to the mode of the recipients, keeping in view the fitness or competence of the aspirants so that any technique that may suit a particular aspirant may be adopted by him or her, of course, but in this time it was all, well, it wasn't all male necessarily in Hindi, but they certainly had, like many cultures did. The terms are probably all going to be male related, and I'll just read them as they are, so I apologize for that. But we're considering that for the purposes of yoga, these types of purposes of enlightenment, we can consider if it is effective for a man, it will be just as effective for women. So yeah, we're not going to go the discrimination route, especially since we're not dealing with any yogic practices dealing with the physical differences between men and women. So prana, I think most people have heard of prana. It's used for various ways in this. I think I'm just going to go into describing the SoHam technique. And this is a technique, a yogic technique that is used actually very, very widely. This one has the advantage of being very widespread in its use and very well known. There are two, the mantra is either SoHam or Hamsa. And it's the same mantra, just with the syllables interchanged. Okay, and I will read a little bit about it now and about how to do this practice. Okay, so, and this is the technique, the mantra technique that we received at the ashram in Portland when we visited it, and which is now just a movement center for yoga, but the Swami has moved on down to Brookings area, I believe. So, Sa is the mystic letter denoting expiration, and Ha is the bija or the mystic letter denoting inspiration. So, the first thing to note is this hum, breath in. Say hum, that part of the mantra as the breath goes in. Hum, stillness. Sa, hum, stillness. Breathe it out. Sa. Okay. Breathing in the universe or God. Breathing it back out. Okay, that's the first thing to know. The ha is the inspiration. The sa is the out. The m is the joining of the two on the in breath. Silence is the joining of the two on the out breath. It's not just sa and nothing. It's sa, silence. Okay, that's the start. The breath is exhaled. This nada expresses itself in the breath of every living creature. The breath is exhaled with the sound sa and inhaled with the sound ha. Thus, the empirical individual always recites this mantra, hamsa. So it's considered that it goes on whether or not you're aware of it, and it's being repeated every time you breathe in and out. The trick, of course, is to do this consciously. Since the there are two ways in which this pranic mantra can be utilized for the awakening of Kundalini. One is prolonged mental awareness of this automatic process, which has been referred to above. And the automatic process is that the breath goes out and in. The Hamsa mantra is repeated by every individual automatically in every round of expiration, inspiration. I say it's quite easy to accomplish. It is only difficult for the ignorant. So, the first way, as it is said, is a prolonged mental awareness of this automatic process in and out. In and out. Hamsa. Another way is conscious japa, or recitation or repetition of this mantra as SoHam, or simply Om. So, about mantra briefly, and then we'll go on more about this specific mantra. Ordinarily, it starts in vocal muttering. It depends entirely on the will of the activity of the person who does the japa. And japa is just repetition of the mantra. And probably should be pronounced japa, would probably be closer. After constant practice for some years, an extraordinary thing happens. Now, I'm going to add that if you're doing this not just like repeating, but if you're doing it consciously with willpower and intention, it happens way faster than years and years. After constant practice, an extraordinary thing happens. A time comes when the japa does not depend on the will and the activity of the reciter any longer. It now goes on automatically, inwardly, without effort on the part of the reciter. It becomes an ajapa japa. When this proceeds for a long time, the prana and apana currents, prana is the energy that moves downward into your body that you breathe in, or apana is the current that goes outward, down in your body, okay, and takes things out, clears things out, okay, and the prana comes in, and prana has a normal upward flow. When you breathe it in, then you hold it and it wants to escape and come back out. When it proceeds for a long time, The prana and apana currents that normally move in a curvilinear way on your Kundalini channels become equilibrated. Kundalini now awakens. The equilibrated current now flows upward through the spine. As Kundalini rises, there are experiences of anahata nada, which is they call an automatic unstruck sound, and that's when you start hearing sounds. There's a particular one, the anahata sound, but that's just one of the mystic experiences in passing. Okay, so there's a lot more to this practice than is listed right here, but I'm going to just read these verses and we'll call it good for now so this video doesn't get extraordinarily long. But there's 112 more in here. So the translation of this part is verse 154. Prana, or the breath of exhalation, goes out, and the breath of inhalation enters in a curvilinear form. They do so of their own accord. The great goddess, Prana Shakti, or Kundalini, stretches up. Kundalini is both a force and energy and a goddess. And the energy resides in the spine. Being both transcendent and immanent, she is the most excellent place of pilgrimage. And all living creatures, and this is the notes on the verse by not the author, but mystics prior to translation by the author. In all living creatures, the divine consciousness is at first converted into prana, and this is energy carried in air, etc. This is known as prana shakti. Its two main forms in living beings are known as prana and apana. Prana is the breath of exhalation and apana of inhalation. Okay. Apana, or the breath of inhalation that enters the center inside, produces a sound ha automatically, and the breath of exhalation that goes out to Divya Santa produces sound sa automatically. At their junction in the center, this is some Indian terms, but basically the M is put in there to combine the two. So it becomes hungsa, and the M should probably be pronounced as an NG properly, more like hungsa. This mantra means I am he, i.e. I am Shiva. Shiva not being the destroyer of the universe, but Parashiva as, the ultimate, as Brahman, same thing. These terms they use. This automatic mantra is consciously and repeatedly contemplated on by the aspirant. It automatically becomes Soham. By constant contemplation of this mantra, Kundalini rises and stretches upwards. That is why she is called elongated. Traversing through the intermediate center, she enters the Brahmandara, and this is the aperture up here. Energy center, not necessarily physical aperture, but there arises unity consciousness in the aspirant. She is called can't pronounce that one right, the most holy place of pilgrimage, because she destroys all the sins of the seeker and because she protects all. It is this mystic holy place that the seeker must resort to, and not geographical places. In this goddess, verse 155, in that great goddess there is a great joy of the conjunction of sa and ha, which is like a sacrifice. Pursuing it and resting in it, one becomes identified with the great goddess, Kundalini, and thus through her one attains to Bhairava, or that transcendent state we're talked about. By consequent contemplation on this mantra, one becomes identified with the goddess Kundalini, and through her one attains the nature of Bhairava. So that's the basic thing. There's one more thing here about it that says, and this is kind of how it ends even. O goddess, I have explained to you this teaching which leads to the highest immortal state. This should never be revealed to any and everyone, particularly to those pupils who belong to another tradition, who are mischievous, cruel, wanting in devotion to their spiritual teachers. On the contrary, this teaching should be imparted without the least hesitation to those whose minds are free from oscillating opinions, to viras, and this word means heroes, and it means the ones who have basically devoted their life to self-development and trying to attain enlightenment, to magnanimous ones, and to those who are devoted to the line of spiritual teachers. O gazelle-eyed one, renouncing all these, one's village, kingdom, city and country, son, daughter, and family, one should lay hold of this teaching. What good are the above evanescent things? This is the lasting treasure. And the notes say these unworthy pupils may misuse these teachings, so these teachings should not be imparted to them. So, the word vira, it says here in the notes, does not mean hero here. It means one who is self-controlled. According to Shivopadaya, badly pronounced, ignore that word entirely. It means one who has cut asunder all doubts. Even life may be renounced, but this teaching is, which is like the most excellent ambrosia, and should not be imparted to undeserving ones. And that is basically the end of it. 111 more dharanas in there. They require study like everything else to do them properly, but the idea here is that divine union and breathing in and out, and there are many different ways to use that mantra. One of the ones is you breathe the universe in, hum to your center, what's called the jiva, which is like a heart center, which, if mystically seen, there is a tapering flame like the light of a candle, but without wind, not changing, steady. Breathe into that, and then you breathe out into the universe. So you breathe the universe into you, you're the universe because the universe is in you. Then you breathe the universe and yourself back out into the universe, and you are out in the universe, out at a point 12 something's from your body, 12, maybe it's 12 fingertips worth. I don't remember, but the idea is that there's an out and an in, and the same process, breathing in and out, joining the universe and God and becoming one with all these things. I guess that'll be about it for the video right now. There's no way to cover all the aspects, and I would have liked covered a lot more dharanas because there are a lot of very interesting ones in there. Staring into space, the idea of like being in infinite space, like you're falling off a cliff, you know, the feeling of falling into the void. There's all kinds of dharanas and things in there that are very interesting and bear serious consideration if you're serious about trying to attain some enlightenment and some self-development. I hope somebody gets something out of this video. I will certainly try to answer any questions I'm asked, though. I don't have a teacher or guru I can go to directly to talk with as such. I don't have an individual guru in that sense. So I guess that's about it. Blessed be. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of what else you're going to do today. Enjoy.